Good evening.
Hello.
That sounds better. On behalf of our owner, Mary Smith, myself, Kathleen Johnson, my sister Eileen Johnson, and the staff of Johnson Funeral Home and Smith and Thomas, I would like to welcome everyone to our Property After Death Forum. I'm so excited to have this forum. I told Robin I wanted to get on the list. This is one of the most requested seminars that we have. My sister and I, we like to think that we deal in legacies, but most of our legacies have to do with memories, you know, in celebration of, in remembrance of, in loving of. But there's also a physical legacy here. And when we entered the business, one of the things that Ms. Smith said to us, make sure as we go along, she told us two things. Don't forget about the poor and educate the people. So we on item 2 and educate the people. When you all come to the table educated, it allows us to provide a better service. And so today we're going to talk about the other kind of legacy, property and all those kind of things. And these are some things that you need to put in place before death. We've had the experience of people say, yeah, I said in this seminar, I want to do some of those things, but their loved one has died. You have to do these things prior to death. And so we appreciate that you all came out and that you're joining us tonight. This event is co-sponsored by Alderman Jason Irving. And somebody said to me, is it Telefair, your alderman? I said, Jason is my alderman. Even though I'm not in his district, I love the way that he and Melissa do things. They are just such first class. And that's who I want to be, first class. So he's I choose him to be my alderman. So, but unfortunately, he wasn't able to be here tonight. Is his chief of staff in the building? Come on up here and say something on behalf of Jason and Melissa. I have to say Jason and Melissa because they are a couple. It's a team, a power team. Come on in.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Trina Mangrum. I'm Chief of Staff to Alderman Irvin, and it is a team. And this is an important topic. A lot of residents have asked us to have the forum, so I'm happy to look out at the crowd and see so many residents that are being proactive. As you mentioned, it's something that needs to happen prior to death. So I'm encouraged at what I see and knowing that it's such an important topic that we'll have many more to come. Thanks.
Okay, so before we get started, I want to say I'm gonna give y'all one piece of advice because I've been in this seminar. Maybe this is about the third time that we've done this. I mean, it is information packed, but it don't mean nothing if you don't do nothing. Okay. So the information that you get today, my recommendation is within the next 10 days or so, make those next appointments and execute on these documents on this process. So put some action behind what you're doing. And so whether you think you're ready or not, go forward with the next step. That's how you get the most out of this, out of this seminar. So my sister Eileen is there. I introduced her earlier. We're twins. Old twins. I'm just going to do a couple quick housekeeping. The bathrooms are located down the hall and to your left. There's a water fountain there too, but we ask that you not, use that water fountain. There's water in the atrium on the bar. And if anybody has any questions relative to the funeral home, feel free to see any of the staff members. Thank you so very much.
Hi, everybody. I don't need a mic. How you guys doing? It's so good to see so many of you out here. So at this time, my executive assistant, Lindsay Chase, is going to give you some housekeeping items before we start the seminar, okay? Okay. Pay attention.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. So when you came in at the registration table, we gave you a couple of items. The first thing we gave you was 2 different forms. So the first one was the property fraud alert form. And the second one is what we call a TODI, a transfer on death instrument. We're going to go over both of these different forms. If you don't have them, if you could let me know so we can get you forms. But this is what they look like. And we also gave you 3 note cards. So what you're going to do with the note cards is write any questions you have down during the presentation. And at the end, we'll collect the note cards and give them to the attorneys to get your questions answered. If anybody doesn't have any note cards, if you want to raise your hand, we'll get you note cards. Did everyone get an ink pen when you came in? It was already mentioned, but out the back to the left is the restrooms. The women's is on the left, the men's is on the right. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Great job. So we are here on behalf of Cook County Clerk Karen A. Yarborough. Who doesn't know who she is? What do you mean? Okay, who else?
I'm thinking about.
You think about somebody else?
Yeah, no, I was thinking about the alternate, but she's the Cook County Clerk.
Clerk. She's the Cook County. She's your Cook County Clerk. So are you aware of what we do in our office? Can anybody tell me? Do what? Nope, we don't do that. We record your property deeds. Right, so let me back up. I'm Robin Staggers. I'm the community affairs person for the Cook County Clerk's Office. I go from one end of the county to the other end of the county, east, west, north, and south. And we put on these events on a regular basis to make sure you have information that you need. Now, the clerk's office does more than just record deeds. Did you know that?
Yeah.
So what else we do? We do elections, that's right. Nope, no city stickers, that's the city clerk. That's the city clerk. Anybody else? We got vital records, birth certificates, death certificates, marriage licenses, the gamut. So that's where you come when you need your birth certificate, or if you need a death certificate from a loved one, you come to our office. What else we do? No, we don't hold the titles. We hold the deeds to your property. So your deeds to your property are recorded in our office, in our property records division. You know that? You do? Okay. So those are just some of the things that the Cook County Clerk's Office has. Also, Brian Cross, who is our Director of Veterans Affairs, who's a veteran here? All right. So if you have not seen Brian, I'll have Brian come up and tell you what he does. And we'll move it right along after that.
Good evening, all. Thanks for having us this evening. Just really quick, the Cook County Clerk, Department of Veterans Affairs. Our main goal is, since 1945, we've been recording your DD 214s. Also, we have worked with the merchants of Cook County, including the Chicago White Sox, to provide a military and veteran discount card. I've seen a couple of you gentlemen before the event. Please come, if you're a veteran and you want your military veteran discount card, come see me after the event. We'll get you done in about a minute or two. We look forward to serving each and every one of you. Thank you very much and have a great night. Yep.
That's key now. That season is coming up, right? So I told you who I am, and I work for Karen A. Yarborough. She is the reason why we're out bringing this program, because she has such a passion for helping the people of the county and anybody pretty much. She wants to help you retain your property so that you can pass it on to your loved ones. So we're here to educate you on how you can do that. We're here to tell you about property fraud and to let you know that we partner with other community organizations. We partner with Legal Aid, who is represented in the back, and Melissa's here with us. We partner with the Center for Disability and Elder Law. We have representatives here to help you with that. We have Jim Gleffy from our office, who is our legal and labor attorney. We also have Kane Trent. He is our legal counsel for property fraud and other things. We also have here with us one of our dedicated community partners that comes out with us. He doesn't get paid for coming out to do this. He's volunteer only. He has his own legal firm. He's very, very astute when it comes to estate planning, and he comes to these events with us so that he can answer your legal questions. Now, let me tell you this, we cannot answer your legal questions. We can answer your questions on the legal side as it relates to our office and our functions, but this attorney here, he can answer your questions about your particular concerns about your estate planning, wills, trusts, and all of that. So this is Steve Henson, and we appreciate him so much for coming out with us. The only way we can put on these events is by partnering with all of these organizations. So don't take it for granted that this is available to you. Well, take it for granted that you have services available to you free. Okay, so all of the information we're giving you is free information. So we're here to help you. And the program is very near and dear to the clerk's heart because of her passion and her leadership and her vision and seeing the needs in the community. We're trying to keep people from becoming victims because you hear about all of the horror stories on the news, right? People moving into people's properties, taking their property, putting their names on their deeds. That's real stuff. That's real. So you want to prevent that from happening to you. And that's another reason why we're here. I also have our other staff with us. You met Lindsay. She gave you the housekeeping. And Wendy Johnson, she's executive assistant to the clerk. So we have all this staff here to guide you into what you need to do, give you forms, direct you to the attorney if you need assistance. So we want you to gather all the information. We're not saying you have to use it, but free information that'll help you keep your property. Isn't that a good thing? And people perish for the lack of what? Knowledge. So we're giving you more knowledge that you can use to help yourselves, okay? So don't let our efforts be in vain. We give these events all over the county. You can come to as many of them as you want until you get it, okay? We also have Carlos Rodriguez here with us, who's doing our AV. So we got a lot of staff here to help us. Now, how many of you know that it's easier to steal a home than it is a car?
I did not know. I had no idea.
Well, you're gonna learn all that tonight. But you need to know that it's easier to steal a home than it is a car. So you need to protect your hard-earned asset, okay? How many of you plan to live forever? Well, we're gonna live an earthly life, but we're gonna live an eternal life on the other side, okay? So how many of you have a plan for transferring your wealth to your loved ones in the event of your death? Who said they're working on it? Okay, that's a good thing. And those of you that have not worked on it, you're gonna understand why you should work on it tonight, okay? So pay close attention. How many have a will? How many have a trust? How many have nothing at all? You're in the right place, okay? You are in the right place tonight. So we are so glad that you came. We want to thank Johnson's Funeral Home and Kathleen for having us here, because if it wasn't for her and your aldermen, this would not be happening. So what we're going to do now, we're going to, what did they tell you to do with the note cards? So you're not going to raise your hand in the middle of the presentation to ask questions, right? Right? Okay. So you got your instructions and you turned off your cell phones or you silenced them, right? Look at you. Silence your cell phones so that it does not interfere with the flow of the presentation. Now, remember, because you got a question already. Question is, we able to answer the question, ask questions after the meeting. Didn't you hear her say we have a question and answer session after the presentation? She didn't say that? Okay, I apologize. So after the presentation and during the presentation, we ask that you write your questions down on the index cards. At the end of the presentation, we will collect your index cards and give them to the attorney so that they can answer your question. Is that fair? If I can't read your handwriting and they can't read your handwriting, we'll do the best we can until we figure out who wrote it. Questions for our office and all of the attorneys. And if they can't answer it as a legal question, they'll pass it on to our estate planning attorney, okay? Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. You will be able to visit those tables and talk to those representatives at the end of the presentation. Okay. Anybody else before we get started? Anybody else? Okay, let it roll, Carlos.
Please note, there are lawyers present today who work for the Cook County Clerk's office, but although they are lawyers, they are not your lawyers. They can answer any questions related to the office, but they cannot and will not offer you legal advice. However, the volunteer attorneys on this panel today are sharing their time and expertise with you as a public service. They are not paid by the clerk's office to be here, and you are free to hire them, or any qualified attorney, to address your legal concerns. Legal Aid of Chicago is also present today. They can offer legal advice for free, and we encourage you to inquire if you qualify for their services. Thank you, and enjoy the presentation.
Hello, and welcome. I'm Karen Yarbrough, your Cook County Clerk. Thank you for joining me and us for this presentation on property fraud and managing your property after death. The Cook County Clerk's Office is one of the largest consolidated clerk's offices in the entire nation. In addition to functioning as the chief election authority for suburban Cook County, the clerk's office maintains birth, marriage, and death records. Our office also assists property owners in redeeming delinquent taxes and serves as the clerk to the Cook County Board of Commissioners. The clerk's office also has a recording operations division, which records, stores, and maintains land records and other official documents, including deeds, transfer on death instruments, as well as tax and real estate documents. Now, nobody wants to talk about death or end-of-life planning, but when you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And we all need to be aware of the threat of property fraud and how we can guard against this type of financial crime. At the Cook County Clerk's Office, we are here to serve, and we hope that this information you receive today will be helpful on these important issues that impact all of our daily lives. Now, let me introduce you to my trusty assistant who will guide us through this presentation.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Before we begin our discussion, we want to let you know that we will have volunteer attorneys available at the end of the presentation who can answer your questions about the topics we will be covering. If you are joining our program via Zoom and have questions that come up during the presentation, simply type your question in the Q&A section through your Zoom link and the attorneys will respond accordingly. Now, let's begin our discussion by talking about property fraud, which can also be known as deed fraud. So, what exactly is property fraud? Property fraud is the fraudulent and illegal recording of a document against your home's property records. We call it paper terrorism, and it's a very real problem and potential risk for all property owners. How can this happen? Almost every state has an open and public recording system, meaning that you cannot freeze your chain of title like you can your credit report. Plus, county recorders are not authorized by law to validate legal claims made in documents. Property fraud can involve the recording or filing of false or forged transfers of ownership, quitclaim deeds, or the filing of a bogus lien to steal property or harass an unsuspecting property owner. Even if your home is paid off, that does not stop someone from filing a new deed on top of it without the property owner's knowledge. Let's look at this NBC5 investigative report that takes a close look at how property fraud can occur.
By law, it is a line anyone can stand in and a fee anyone can pay. $40 is all it takes to get a deed or other document officially recorded in Cook County, a simple perk of open government openly abused by serious scammers.
I think they call them, financial parasites.
She was new to her office as recorder of deeds when Karen Yarborough says she first spotted the trouble.
To steal a home, all you have to do is doctor some paperwork up and Photoshop it, bring it to the recorder's office, record it, voila, you own a home.
Con artists exploiting a system that relies on the honesty of those who use it, recording forged documents in order to steal a home outright. Sound far-fetched?
This is a kind of crime that I never imagined that could happen.
It did to Chicago Treasurer Stephanie Neely until it happened to her.
I get this call, I'm like, what do you mean someone has changed the name on my deed? What do you mean? How do they do that?
In her case, a stranger recorded a fraudulent deed, waited until she was at work, and then changed the lock.
They want to physically be in your house, because once they're there, it's very difficult to get them out.
Precisely what happened to this Chicago woman.
This individual had paperwork that was Xerox that showed the deed was in his name.
She asked us to conceal her identity because
you're in constant fear that they will try something next, because believe it or not, they did come back 3 days later.
One man connected to her case was arrested and convicted. As the recorder's office continued to field fake documents,
I decided that I couldn't sit idly by and watch this happen.
Yarborough brought in this man.
They believe that the government created artificial duplicates of all of us.
An expert on sovereign citizens, the extreme anti-government movement often behind this crime.
They believe they can completely ignore our government and do whatever they want to do with impunity.
Pitcavage calls it paper terrorism and teaches the red flags, like the punctuation sovereigns add in the middle of names, the refusal to use mainstream addresses or zip codes, and how they employ lengthy, arcane terms. The flurry of documents they file may be fake, but their threat is real.
They're bullies. They're brazen. They think that nothing can touch them.
A lot of times they'll come in and overwhelm our frontline staff. It may be 20 of them will come in.
Yarborough has a catchy comparison she uses to get a non-believer's attention. In Illinois, it is easier to steal a home than it is to steal a car.
It's fraud and, they're taking people's homes.
So there is now a simple way for some homeowners to protect themselves, the free property fraud alert system. You load your property index number, then you get an alert if any document is recorded in connection with your property. Counties across the country are now turning to this kind of system as these cases of mortgage and property fraud continue to grow. Lisa Parker, NBC5, investigates.
To combat this problem, Clerk Yarborough created a property fraud unit with investigators and caseworkers who respond to and investigate any complaints of property fraud. The clerk's office also offers a free property fraud alert that will provide a telephone call or email to the property owner anytime a document is recorded against their property or the property of a loved one. There are 3 easy ways to sign up for the clerk's free property fraud alert. You may sign up in person at the clerk's office, you can sign up online, or you can sign up with a telephone call. Once registered, if you receive an alert or have a reason to be concerned about property fraud, you can contact the clerk's property fraud unit and our staff can help research the problem and coordinate a response. Call 312-603-4000 or visit our website at cookcountyclerk.com/property fraud. On a related note, while we're on the topic of your chain of title and fraud, property owners often need to obtain an official copy of their property deed when purchasing a home or for tax purposes. You should be aware there is a predatory practice aimed at homeowners in which companies offer a copy of your property's deed at a large markup price, sometimes exceeding $200. The clerk's office wants to remind you that we offer the same service on our website starting at just $5. In-person prices can range from $10 to $55 depending on the format and age of the document. So either way, there's no reason to pay exorbitant prices to gain access to these essential documents. Now, let's move on to the second part of our program, which is making plans to manage your property and assets in the event of your death. As Clerk Yarbrough noted, no one wants to talk about death or end-of-life planning, but it's critical to manage your assets to protect your family and loved ones. Having a sound end-of-life plan is one of the greatest gifts that you can provide to your children and family members. Consider this. What do you think these 3 legendary individuals have in common? Prince, Aretha Franklin,
87 years ago, our fathers
and Abraham Lincoln. Actually, they have something very unfortunate in common. They failed to make plans for their assets upon their death. No will, no trust, and no plan. Now, let's consider someone who thought he had it right. Music legend James Brown, the godfather of soul. When he passed away in 2006, Brown's estate was worth an estimated $90 million. When he died, Brown left behind a plan for most of his estate to pay for scholarships for children in need in South Carolina, the state where he was born. But that will was challenged by family members after his death, resulting in more than 12 lawsuits. It took more than a decade of litigation before Mr. Brown's assets were designated as he had intended. So how do you get it right when it comes to your property after death? The best advice is to consult an attorney or estate planning professional to provide you with advice for your specific circumstances. But you should also know that under Illinois law, you can transfer your home, your car, or your bank account to a loved one without a will or a trust, and without having to pay any fees or court costs. Here are the details on how to transfer your property. First, a transfer on death instrument. The clerk's office has a free document on our website known as a transfer on death instrument. We call it a toady. No, not that kind of toady. You can also obtain this document at no cost from any attorney or legal aid organization. The form should be completed and notarized and then recorded at the clerk's office in our Recording Operations Division. The transfer on death instrument will then be recorded on your property's chain of title, and upon your death, the person designated to receive your property can do so after completing the required forms. Please note that the clerk's office cannot assist you in the preparation of a transfer on death instrument or any legal document. We do not provide legal advice to customers. Next, let's discuss a payable on death instrument. You can transfer the funds from your local bank account in a similar way. Utilizing a tool known as payable on death instrument, a person can transfer assets in a bank account to the beneficiary of their choosing after death. A payable on death instrument can be obtained and used at most financial institutions, for checking and savings accounts, as well as certificates of deposits, CDs, money markets, and savings bonds. Even if you have completed a payable on death instrument, the account holder has full control of their funds in the account until the time of their death. When the account holder passes, the beneficiary can claim specified assets directly from the financial institution without having to wait for probate court proceedings. Finally, let's discuss a beneficiary affidavit. There is also a mechanism to transfer your car to a designated beneficiary. A vehicle owner may change, add, or remove a beneficiary on the title of their car by completing a free beneficiary affidavit through the Illinois Secretary of State's office. To obtain this beneficiary affidavit, go to the Illinois Secretary of State website at www.ilsos.gov. Keep in mind that if money is still owed on your home or vehicle at the time of your death, your beneficiary will be responsible for the mortgage and payments moving forward. On behalf of Clerk Karen Yarborough, we hope that you have found this presentation useful. The clerk's office is your first line of defense against property fraud, so we hope that you will take this opportunity to sign up for our free property fraud alert if you have not already done so. Managing your property and your assets in the event of your death is also critical to protecting your family and your assets, and to ensure that your wishes are carried out after your death. A copy of this presentation is available on the clerk's website if you would like to review it again or share with a friend or family member. Please visit www.cookcountyclerk.com/PAD resources to review the presentation. For more information on how to host a Property After Death Property Fraud Forum in your community, contact our Special Assistant to the Clerk for Community Affairs, Robin Staggers, at 312-603-3974 or email robin.staggers@cookcountyil.gov. Now let's ask the volunteer attorneys who are joining us to introduce themselves, and we will open up our presentation for your questions.
Hi, good evening, everybody. How are you doing? You find the presentation helpful? Well, we're going to be getting into our Q&A here in just a second. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Jim Gleffy. I'm the Deputy Chief of Staff and Labor Counsel for Cook County Clerk Karen Yarborough. And as Ms. Staggers had mentioned, this is my partner at the clerk's office, Mr. King Trin. He's the legal counsel over our recording operations division. He also oversees our property fraud unit. Now I have to read a disclaimer. I'm a lawyer, but I can't serve as your lawyer. I'm a lawyer for the clerk's office. And so as it relates to questions regarding services that the clerk's office provides, we can answer those questions, but we can't offer legal advice. With that said, we have several community partners here with us today that will be able to answer such questions. We have attorney Stephen Hinton here. Steve, put your hand in the air and wave.
I didn't think I had to wave since there was nobody else over here, but it's me.
I've done these presentations with Mr. Hinton a number of times, and I can tell you he's a wealth of information. And he volunteers his time and expertise with you today as a public service. He's not paid by our office to be here, and you're free to hire them or any other qualified attorney to address your legal concerns. I also want to point out that we have two outstanding organizations here represented tonight. We have Legal Aid Chicago, who is present in the back. The attorney representing Legal Aid Chicago is Miss Barbara Bertini, and she's at the table right in the middle. Oh, well, that's an okay. Okay, sorry. Barbara's on rotation. You get Melissa, and Melissa's also a very helpful partner.
Your Cook County.
I also want to introduce the folks from the Center for Disability and Elder Law. They're also in the back, and they could provide some legal advice as well. So make sure you stop by their tables after the presentation to see if you qualify for their services. With that said, Ms. Staggers and some of our other staff has been collecting the questions from the crowd, and we're going to be going through them and hopefully providing answers that assist you in gathering your information that you came here to gather.
So I'm gonna do something a little bit different tonight because I want to make sure everybody's question is addressed. And if you can't read something, I'm gonna make sure that that person that wrote the question down clarifies their question, Okay, is that fair?
Yeah.
Now, Lindsay and Brian collected your cards. So, are there any more cards? And you may have other questions as we move forward, but I'm gonna start reading the cards now. Hello, if my parent has a trust, would they need to also submit a transfer of property form as well?
No. Okay, so I come to these places because they give me a microphone. I kind of like this. I'm from East Garfield Park, so I'm like a semi-rapper. I wanted to be a rapper, but didn't work out well for me. So this microphone is all I get. But so to answer your question, they probably the short answer is I don't know. And the reason why I say that, no, I shouldn't say that. It depends. That's the legal answer that we say for everything. But it depends because I would have to look at that trust. Typically, a trust is going to designate where your assets are going, and that trust should have already identified where that house is going. If the trust is done properly or the way it's typically recommended, the house would have already been taken care of. And actually, there should almost probably be a trustee's deed. When you do a trust, you probably should transfer the house to the trust. When a person has a trust, they basically have nothing themselves. All their assets have been transferred into this trust. So when you sue somebody, it's like you go after Oprah or Michael Jordan and stuff, they'll say, I don't have anything. And they legally don't because they've transferred all their assets to the trust. So it may be the Oprah Winfrey Trust, and that trust legally owns all of America. So you'll have a house, a car, and all that stuff. So to answer your question, you probably don't need a transfer death instrument if you have a trust. But I would go and talk to the person that created that trust to confirm, or have an attorney look that trust over just to make sure. Because the reality is, you want to make sure while you're still here. You don't want to have the debate to go on or try to figure it out. You would be figuring out, your heirs would be figuring it out. So now, now's the time to just have an attorney just look over your trust.
Next question. How can I change my name on my birth certificate?
I was a criminal defense attorney too. I started off as a Cook County State's attorney. So let me just qualify that. I was, did a lot of good things. And then when I left, a lot of people liked my expertise in that area. So I had to help them stay on the street. But that sounds like one of my old clients' questions or something. What are we doing here? You're legally changing your name. Okay. Uh-huh. I think you, if I'm not mistaken, you have to go to court, though. You'd have to go to court, and a judge would have to allow you to change your name. I mean, go on. You can.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But what I would encourage you to do, leave your contact information with one of us before you leave today. We'll have someone from our vital records department reach out. They're the experts in everything vital records, birth records, marriage records, death records. And they'll be able to point you in the right direction to where you get the corrected name put on your birth certificate.
Next question. If one has a will, why is a trust needed? This is a three-part question from one person. So the first part is, if one has a will, why is a trust needed?
Well, a will and a trust are completely two different things. A will, I'm just giving you the basics. A will is a public document. A will will become a public document. So the way it works is you'll draft your attorney, or you will draft a will. Upon your death, a will must be recorded if it's in Cook County or in the state of Illinois, it must be recorded within 30 days of your death in the county in which you resided in. So once you record anything, it's a public document. Whereas a trust, it's a private document. Once you pass away, no one sees that trust. Now, obviously, there's pros and cons. typically, in order to draft a will, you're paying anywhere from $350 to $750. In order to do a trust, it's typically anywhere from $1,500 to $5,000. Yeah. But and it just, trust can be very creative and very expensive. It just depends on it depends on the type of assets that you own. People who have businesses, people who have, multiple houses, it just depends on how elaborate you want to be and how creative you want to be. So that's a big difference. And so I wouldn't necessarily say, if you have a will, I don't need a trust. Those are two separate animals, and each individual situation is so specific and so unique. You have to sit down and find out what works best for you.
Just to add to what Mr. Hinton said, so you also want to think about what it means after you pass to have a will or have a trust. If you have a will, you have to go and put it into probate. Probate costs money because whoever is going to be managing this estate is going to have to pay the attorney to go to court and file the probate papers. I had a family situation where an uncle passed in 2018 and the estate just got closed this past December. So it's been a long time in the coming. It obviously depends on individual situations. But just because you have a will and you pass away doesn't mean that the property passes with it. You have to actually go into court and file a probate case. And the only difference between someone with a will and who doesn't have a will is if you have a will, you get to say what your plan is. If you don't have a will, the government has a plan for you. But you still have to go through the same process. So that's just a little bit about wills and trusts. Generally have trustees, as Mr. Hinton said, they'll actually put a deed out there to who the beneficiaries of the trust are at the direction. So it really does depend, as he said, on your individual circumstances of what's right for you.
And actually, when I have people come to my office, I typically will try to get them. We try not to have wills. And I know people, that's taboo as to what everybody's been told and you've been taught and things like that. But because a will is public, you have to record that will. And now you have to go through the probate process. We try to avoid probate. And pardon me? Yeah, right. And one of the ways for most of us, our biggest asset is going to be our house. So the way you avoid probate is to make sure that you have a beneficiary on everything you own. And the number one way of doing it is the transfer of death instrument. If you properly fill out that transfer of death instrument, that asset is not a part of your estate. And if you put the proper, what we call payable on death items on different things like your checking account, like your savings account, like your IRA, like your 401k, like your life insurance. If you put beneficiaries on those things, they're not a part of your estate. So now when you pass away, people say, oh, you probate your estate. Why? I have nothing in it. Everything is already passed at my death. So just like the transfer of death says, upon my death, this house potentially transfers to whoever I so name. They have to file what's called an acceptance. They have the right to accept the gift as well. But we try to keep everything out of the courts because the reality of it is, it's very true. Probate is expensive. A lot of attorneys, they laugh at me. My minimum fee for probate, when you just have a house, you have nothing else but a house, is $3,000. Attorneys are like, you're gonna go poor, you're gonna go broke. Well, first of all, like I said, all my friends and family members don't have $3,000 sitting around their pocket. But that's a cheap one. Seriously, that's bargain basement. And that's why it's unfortunate. And that's why I'm glad you all are out here. So you all spread the word. If you all do nothing else, and everyone says it, and I've been coming to these functions for a little while, and everybody, we leave here all pumped up. Everybody, man, we got a lot of information. We ready. I'm gonna get my transfer of death insurance. I'm getting my transfer. And then a week go by, then another week go by. And say, what was that thing called again? And what do I have to do? Now that's one person. Now the other person, what they're gonna do, they're gonna fill this out tonight. They're gonna be on it, fill it out tonight. And then at Thanksgiving time, we're gonna say, oh, look at that. I probably should record that document, shouldn't I? Because here's the other thing. A transfer of death instrument is a sheet of paper that does nothing until you record it. It's nothing until you record it. It's just a wish. It's a thought. It's an idea. But you have to be proactive and do this. And I encourage every single person that owns a house, put somebody's name on it. Look, you can change these things. You know, you got the son or daughter's acting crazy, you can take them off later. You can change these things, but do something now. Be active. See, because it really hurts my heart. Seriously, I get calls. I'm not exaggerating. At least once every 8-9 days, somebody calls and says, "Mr. Henry, we were doing this, but my mama passed away, but my daddy passed away." And I say, "There's really nothing we can do. The legislature has already established what's going to be done. If you don't prepare a will, if you don't do these documents, the legislature's already, they've already given us a will. We already have a will that's already been established. If you're a husband and wife, if the wife passed away, 50% of the property goes to the spouse, the other 50% goes to the children. Well, that's kind of silly because I know my wife would not want my kids to have a house. But if I didn't have the will or to have everything set up, that's exactly what's going to happen. My son, 18-year-old fool son, he's going to be the owner of a house. So, I mean, that don't make sense. But that's the way the legislature has it. So you need to be proactive. Let me stop. See, I told you with a mic, attorney with a mic, that's a dangerous thing.
But that's what he's here for, right? To answer your question.
But let's get the questions, Robert. I'm sorry.
Okay,
You know I start going.
you're gonna find out.
You know I start going.
Okay, so that was the first part of that trust needed
Okay.
question.
That's right.
How does a person steal one's property and what proof do they present?
So to steal a property is pretty easy. All you do is go to Office Depot, get a deed form, sign that other person's name to yours, get some tax stamps done, come in and record it. That's how easy it is to steal somebody's property. So, but having said that, it's even easier for you all to sign up for your fraud alert. All you need to do is provide your name, your property index number, email address, or phone number. That's all you need.
And they don't need their index number because we can look it up.
So if you have your property address, make sure you have your correct property address and we'll go look up your property index number and we'll get you signed up. It's that easy. And what happens is that if anything is recorded against your property, so if you're a mortgage company, you refinance, you'll get an alert for that. And then you can look that up on our website to see what was recorded. And if there's a problem, you just give us a call and we'll help you through.
And it costs you nothing.
Costs you absolutely
It's
nothing.
a free service that we offer.
And if you forgot, maybe you signed up a few years ago and you want to sign up again, that's no harm in that. Go ahead and re-sign up, not a problem.
Okay, I think you answered this. What is the difference between a will and a trust? Okay. And why do you need both? Did you answer that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, get on those. How effective is a fraud alert?
It's only as effective as if you signed up for it. So just remember to sign up for it. So what'll happen, again, it's important to remember that there are 2 acts in recording a document. Act number 1 is to record a document. Act number 2 is for our office to then data entry some of the pieces of information on that document so that it reflects on your chain of title. When that happens and you've signed up on the alert, you'll get either a phone call or an email telling you, hey, there's something going on in your chain of title. Why don't you have a look?
Just piggybacking on Kane, what he's talked about. So once there's a fraud alert, what do you do next? You're like, okay, it looks like something was recorded in my property. What now? You could call our office. Kane directs an entire office, the property fraud unit. The phone number was listed on the presentation, but it's 312-603-4000. And if you think that there's been fraud on your property, you call that number, you talk to one of our property fraud investigators, they'll look into it. And if they think that there's fraud, they could actually open a case on your behalf in court to get that document removed from your property. So we'll actually go out free of charge and try to help you navigate that process.
If you have your property in a trust, do you need a property fraud alert in place?
Yes. There is no situation where you do not need a property fraud. I mean, here's the thing. We're not going to leave today completing these toadies But you can leave today with the property fraud alert. If you do nothing else, please do that, seriously. I mean, like I said, you get a notification that someone's filed something, that something's been filed or recorded on your property. You have to do, this is like your minimum that you have to do today. If nothing else, you have to do that. I have one on my house. I have one on my mom's. I mean, I like I said, I don't understand those stories that we see on the news, like somebody comes over and takes your house. Because I said, I'm from East Garfield Park. If you come into my house, I promise you're going to go out. But with that said, as a lawyer, we still need to be alerted. And you want to make sure, because what happens is people will have a deed on your property and it may be in there for years. And you don't know it until you get ready to start trying to sell it or something happens or whatever. And then it becomes a lot more murkier to try to deal with. Oh, you're gonna get the tax bill, you're gonna have to pay it. But the thief's not gonna pay it. They just want the house. So no, please, there is nothing, whether you have a trust, a will, or I don't care what it is, get the property fraud alert. There's nothing.
So what if the fraudulent person fills out the alert?
They'll get the alert. They'll get the alert. You can sign up for your own property, so you can get an alert. Remember, it's free to use. And for somebody to try to go through that effort to come and take your house, they'll probably do something else to you as well. I'm kidding. But so remember to sign up for the fraud alert. And here's what happens in my experience is that the vast majority of all the alerts that go out, it's not a fraud. It's either you recorded a quitclaim deed for you and your spouse or your children, you refinanced, or your mortgage company transferred the mortgage to another bank. That's the vast majority of the alerts that go out. Then in the smaller minority, you have what I call indexing errors. That means somebody, pushed the wrong button and this document ends up on your chain of title and it's not supposed to be there. And then a very, very small, tiny situation is that, it's actual fraud. So, sign up for an alert, definitely.
So what if it is fraud?
If it is fraud, well, first, have a look at the document, calm yourself down, because the first thing that happens is, you hear a fraud alert and then your blood pressure goes up. Come to our website. It's free to search and free to view the document that was recorded against your website. Totally free. You don't have to buy a thing. If you go to a website and you're putting in your credit card number, wrong website, I have to tell you that. Sometimes it happens. So go to our website, punch in your property index number, look at the documents in your chain of title. If you don't recognize it, give us a call, or you can email us. So remember that number 603-4000, right? 312-603-4000. Or go to our website. We've got our email listed there, and you can feel free to send us an email, and we'll look at it with you. We'll look at that document with you.
So we have a bookmark on our table that tells you how to check your deed. This is a directive that you can use to check your own deed to see what is actually represented on your chain of title, right?
That's right. And it's good for you to use it because you're all taxpayers. You're paying for that service. So might as well familiarize yourself with it. And again, it's free to search and then free to view the documents. You don't have to buy a thing. You don't have to buy any of the documents there.
Okay. What can you use a toady for? This person wants to know if you can use a toady on your home or car. It was in the presentation. So what documents do they need for their home? What do they need for their car? And what do they need for their bank account?
So the toady is only for real estate. It's residential properties. It could be your home. It could be a commercial property. The state legislature just recently in the last couple of years changed the laws to allow you to use a toady for commercial property, like a 2-flat or an apartment building. If you want to change your ownership of your car after you pass away, there's a document with the Secretary of State's office called the beneficiary affidavit. The Secretary of State's office has a copy of that form on their website as well. And to transfer your bank account and other similar accounts, there's retirement accounts and things of that nature. You can also oftentimes just do a payable on death instrument, which allows you to name a beneficiary for when you pass away, who would be the person that would inherit that. And you wouldn't have to go to probate for that to work. If it's if you have a beneficiary listed through a payable on death account, that will immediately pass upon their presenting the death certificate and other related information.
And I recommend if you go to your bank, where you're banking at right now, just talk to your banker, and each bank has their own forms. You just fill it out right there at the bank. Or you talk to your insurance agent, make sure you have, again, it's just make sure you have beneficiaries on everything. And that takes it out of the purview of going to probate court.
What is the cost to transfer property through a toady? First of all, how much does it cost to record the toady? And is there a cost to transfer it once the person dies to the beneficiary? I guess that would be the question. Is that
so the cost of recording a toady is $50, and that's a reduced price from every other document recorded in our office. Documents are usually $98 or even more, depending on the type of document. The county board, especially when there was the COVID pandemic going on, realized how valuable the service is and worked with our office, and we came with a way that we can offer a reduced fee for those that want to record a toady. So it's $50 flat fee to record a toady, not $500 or $1,000 or other higher amounts that go through probate. Now, sometimes you may want to hire an attorney to prepare the document for you. That cost is not inclusive of that, but it is a form that you can utilize yourself. And if you complete the form yourself and you come and record it, the $50 is the only fee you would have to pay. Now I'll let Mr. Hinton talk about why it may be important to have an attorney.
No, actually, the attorneys get mad at me, like I said, but I don't care. So the Cook County, I'm getting really used to these new names. The Cook County Clerk's website, it actually has this form on there. So the only person that can fill out, technically, legally, the only person that can fill out the form is the homeowner and an attorney. Well, you as the homeowner, you can fill this form out. Take your time and fill it out. Now, if you feel a little uneasy, though, I would advise you to have an attorney look it over, an attorney to prepare one for you. But if you feel confident or whatever, now here's the rub, though. It's kind of hard, though, because you won't really know you messed it up ever. Now, your heirs will know that you messed it up when they realize that you forgot to get something notarized, you forgot to get a witness, you forgot to do something else. So that's the rub, if you will. So I tell people, and the reality of it is, most attorneys are not charging okay, I stop saying that. They shouldn't be charging a lot to prepare this document. This is a pretty standard document, and you should be able to get this document. Again, I don't like throwing out fees because every attorney sets their own fees. There's no national fee for us or anything like that, but these are pretty standard forms. So I think you'd be okay going to an attorney to make sure you did it right. But if you feel confident about it, this is something you can do on your own. Like I tell people all the time, people always say, can I do something? Yes, you can. Should you? That's a whole nother question. You know your comfort level. You know what you're capable of doing or not doing.
So this is the point where we give a shout out to Legal Aid and to our Center for Disability and Elder Law. They will help you fill these forms out free of charge. So they provide free services, legal services to you guys free of charge. So you reach out to them after the event is over. You can go back and talk to them about what your particular needs may be, but they're here as our community partners to serve you as well. Okay, Melissa? Chandler and Marlo, right? Forgive me. Okay, so can you avoid estate taxes by transferring to a toady? Transferring the property to a toady?
Who's trying to avoid the estate tax? Who has a question? Come on, raise your hand. Come on, we can talk. Come. What? No, it would not go through probate. Okay. You try to sneak some tax questions, and I like it. I like that. I like that.
So can the transfer by toady be contested?
yes, everything can be contested. You can hire an attorney, contest anything. Now, again, it can be contested, but there has to be a basis for that contest. And then aside from that, if it's drafted properly, and I can come up with all kind of scenarios how you could contest it. Some people say, well, mama would have never wanted to get a house to Johnny. Well, but if mama was competent and mama had the right witnesses, mama gave a house to Johnny. So, of course, you can come up with different scenarios why it could be contested. But if it's done properly, it doesn't make a difference. But the short answer is yes, it can be contested. Anything can be contested. A will can be contested.
If you still owe a mortgage on your property and you have a will or trust or beneficiary, whose question is this?
If you still own on your property, 2 more years is free. Can you have a beneficiary? Or can you put it in trust? Or can you have a will?
You can do all of that with most of us would never have wills, trust, anything if we had to wait for the mortgage to be gone. So you can do all that. What happens is once upon the person's passing away, that property then will pass to the other person. They take it with that mortgage on it. Remember, the mortgage is a lien on the property. So the mortgage stays with that property. So the mortgage doesn't go away. It's just there, but it doesn't prohibit you from putting the property in a trust or a transfer of death instrument.
How can you guard against a mechanic's lien?
Man, we really getting somebody flipping houses and stuff out here and stuff. Well, I tell you, okay, so you technically can't guard against the mechanic's lien because if you had the contractor doing work on the property and you didn't pay them, they're gonna put a mechanic's lien on the property. People, if you hire a contractor to rehab your house or whatever, and they used to say you don't pay him, and then he's going to put a lien on the property. He spent $30,000, updating your house, whatever. He's going to put a mechanic's lien. So you really can't stop him. You just have to pay him, and then that's step one. You pay the contractor, and then once you pay the contractor, make sure you get a release though from the contractor. Make sure he signs and gives you a document stating that all fees have been paid, and you might want to record that if you want to. I mean, some people, I would just keep it with me in the event something popped up, but you definitely make sure you get a release from the contractor. Man, I tell you, they're sneaking them in. They're sneaking them in today. I'm thinking about getting married. Should I get a prenup or what, Robin? She don't love me. They're sneaking them in, Robin. I tell you. Okay, go on.
Okay, if a spouse dies and a mortgage remains, when removing deceased names, will the remaining spouse have to qualify for a new mortgage?
Okay, give me that again.
If a spouse dies,
okay,
and a mortgage remains on the property,
okay,
when removing the deceased name from the property, will the remaining spouse have to qualify for a new mortgage?
Well, okay, so the answer is it depends on how the original loan was obtained. If the loan was in your name and deceased spouse name, you don't have to do anything. You just have to keep paying the mortgage. There's nothing new to do. And then what you can do is file an affidavit, what's it called, a deceased joint tenant affidavit, letting whoever know that the spouse has passed away. But you don't have to get a new loan or anything like that. Now, as I tell my clients, I mean, you just keep paying the mortgage. The lender will never know as long as you're paying your mortgage. But again, if that right, exactly, they don't care who's paying as long as it's being paid. But if that loan was taken out in husband and wife's name, and husband passed away, wife just keeps paying. There's nothing else to do. Yes. Oh, you can still do the toting. You can file what's called, like I said, you don't have to, because when they look at the chain of what's going to happen is you can file a affidavit of deceased joint tenant. I believe that's what it's called, affidavit of deceased joint tenant. Basically, you file that in. So when they call it a chain of title, it's like a history of your house. So the history shows that husband and wife got the house. Then the next thing But some up above that shows husband passed away. I'm sorry, guys, I'm killing off the husband, but we always first go. I'm just saying, that's the way it goes. So it shows that the husband passed away, and now you can do your toting. So do the toting.
Can you be on the bank account of a deceased person that will allow you to take over the cash?
Can you?
Can you be on the bank account of a deceased person that will allow you to take over his cash?
So I get that. And so that actually happens a lot. So this is the scenario a lot of times. So again, sorry guys, mom is the last one still living. Mom is getting up there. So mom puts her daughter on the account. So now it's like a joint account. So when mom passed away, that's daughter's money now. So you want to be careful. I tell parents this all the time, because now the way people get around the transfer death instrument, they say a lot of times my clients, people get kind of creative and they hear about some things. So they say, let's do a quick claim deed. Let's just put my daughter on the quick claim deed. You can do that, but daughter's creditors come right along with her on that quick claim deed. So now you have all these creditors looking at your house. So the same thing happens when you put somebody on your checking account. You put daughter, brother, son on that checking account. Well, now everybody that they owe money to can come after that checking account because now that's a joint asset. So you want to be careful about that. So that's why we always recommend pay at death. Once I die, whatever these kids do, they do. You know, so go on.
And I got a real life example of how this comes into play. My mom, she's a great woman. She's still alive, but back when I was going to college, she was going through some financial difficulties. But I never had a bank account before, and she said, "Let's have a joint bank account." I was on her bank account, and she was on mine, and she had her own separate bank accounts. But I didn't know anything about any of this. So, beginning of semester, I get my check for student loans. I put it in the bank. I don't know anything about my mom's financial situation. Her creditors for a different account took my money. And they did it because technically, if she's on the account, it's her money too. So rather than putting someone in as a joint account holder, make them a beneficiary so that they would only get it if something happened to you.
How detrimental is it not? How detrimental is it if you don't have a will and if you only have one beneficiary? How detrimental is it not having a will if you only have one beneficiary?
Well, I wouldn't use the word detrimental. The issue becomes, and this is one of those, it depends questions. What type of assets are we talking about? You know, I mean, that's where it really, the fight isn't whether or not that one beneficiary gets your assets. The question is, okay, I have a house. How does that one beneficiary get the house? Well, the only way that one beneficiary can get a house without you doing anything is now they have to go to probate court. The only way you can transfer property that you own is you have to physically write something, i.e. a deed or this transfer death instrument, or in the alternative, a judge has to give somebody else the authority to do it. And so therefore what happens is you now, when you didn't do anything, you do only have that one beneficiary, but now that one beneficiary has to go, they have to open up a probate. I think the filing fee for probate is like $457. Then if it's within 2 years, you have to publish. So that's another $250. And then you have to get somebody served. So that's another money. And we haven't even talked about the legal fee yet. So lack of planning, you're either going to make your beneficiary pay a lot of money, or you can pay some money up front. Is really, yes, ma'am. Okay. Well, you should do you will be fine. If you do the transfer death instrument, you'll be fine. If you've already taken care of your other assets, you should be fine. Mm-hmm.
This question says, we have property here in Chicago and in Vegas. Can I get both properties transferred in my name through an attorney or a trust?
I would recommend that you come and see an attorney to deal with that, but I will say that you probably are going to be better served with a trust because the transfer of death instrument, it actually says on it, it's called Illinois Real Property Transfer. The laws of Illinois, we go from end of Illinois to the end of Illinois, but we can't go to Michigan, Las Vegas, or anybody else. Vegas has their own laws and rules and things like that. So I'm even for me, I wouldn't even be able to. I only have a license in Illinois. There are some attorneys that have license in other states. I'm licensed to practice in Illinois. So when people call me about stuff there are a lot of people in our community that have property in Georgia, in Mississippi, and Alabama. My grandmother, when she was living, she said, "Baby, I got property in Alabama." I said, "Grandma, we're gonna get you an Alabama attorney." Because I know the laws. I propose to know the laws of Illinois. I know nothing about Alabama. So, that's one of those situations you would sit down and talk to an attorney, and they possibly would work with you and work with an attorney in Vegas as well.
How long do you have to transfer or to execute a transfer on death instrument?
I'm not really understanding the question, but
how long do you have to execute a transfer on death instrument? Whose question is this? You want to know how long after the person dies?
or after they died? Oh, you go the next day. I mean, it wouldn't look good, but I mean, like, he was a good man, standing in line crying and stuff, but
I just want to make sure I understood the question though. This is, you want to record the toady before the person passes away. If the toady's, okay. If the toady's already recorded, then you go in with the affidavit. You could do it the next day. That's fine. You don't have to. Yeah, I think you have
up to 2 years. You have up to 2 years. You have up to 2 years to make a decision as to, because a lot of people, well, not a lot. Some people decide not to accept property because think about it. You remember, you're getting this property as is. So that property could have a whole lot of code violations on it. It could have a mortgage that's greater than the value of the house. So there's reasons why you might say, I'm gonna just let that pass. I'm good with what I got now. So I think it was the Illinois State Bar Association. They came up and they talked to the legislature to come up with that 2-year limit. So therefore, there would be some finality in this process. Just having somebody could come in 10 years later. Well, that wouldn't do anybody good, but you have up to 2 years to execute that.
So after the death of a loved one, do I need to contact the mortgage company and have the property put in my name, or can I just continue to make the payments?
Well, again, after the death of a loved one requires, first of all, the question is, who is your name on the deed? Your name's on the deed? Well, if the loved one passed away, just keep paying it. Yeah, there's no reason to contact anyone. Well, right. So now, sadly, I get that a lot. I get that a lot. So what happens a lot of times, again, mom's the last one. This is the quote unquote family house. We have 4 kids living in this house. And the reality of it is the loan probably has an acceleration clause that says once the person passes away, that loan becomes due and payable. I tell the kids, is there anybody in the family that has credit good enough that they can get a loan? 80% of the time they say, I'm sorry, Mr. Henry, we don't. I said, well, you didn't hear this from me, but just keep paying the loan. Just keep paying, because you have to have a place to live. Now the reality of it is you have to work towards getting your credit right. And you have to do this expeditiously because there are other negative implications with this. The reality of it is your house technically isn't really insured anymore, because what the insurance company is going to do, even though you're making the payments and it's going towards, you're making that one payment and the insurance company is paying it, what the insurance company is going to do is say, well, this person passed away in 2020. You've been paying this insurance for a year. We're only going to pay you up until that full year, but we're not going to pay you the full value of this insurance. So you really have to be careful. But the reality of it is, when push comes to shove, you're not going to be homeless. So just keep making that payment. You well, right, and yeah. See, we get to the legal, right. It's some what's legal and what people do. Now I'm just saying, hypothetically, I have heard what I heard. People have been known to just keep paying it, and they receive it. But legally, you're only entitled to the exemptions that you qualify for. Like once a homeowner's exemption is only good. So what happens is, mama passed away, grandmama passed away, and they had a senior free, they had a senior exemption. And the kids keep taking that. Now, legally, they're not entitled to take that. And I will tell you this, Cook County has been aggressively going after people for that, because I've had calls and I've had to represent people on those. And just negotiating with the county. So it definitely behooves you to, just do it right, but you got to do what you got to do. Just leave it at that.
Now, the beneficiary, this is about the beneficiary of a property. Does the recipient have to accept the toady, and is there a fee?
The recipient does not have to accept the property. Now, I don't know if there's I'm sure there's a fee.
Yeah, the fee would just be the same as if you were recording a document in our office. So $98 flat fee, and that's all you would need. That's the only fee. You don't have to pay filing fees in court or anything like that. Just the filing fee for the document with our office.
My home was purchased in 1971. Will I have to check to see if my deed is currently active?
Well, first of all, a deed is not active or inactive. Well, you can buy some in 19. Well, I do know people. They have deeds from 1960 something, but the deed doesn't go away, and that's the good thing about it. That's why it's called a chain of title. But what I would recommend is, at a minimum, I would go online and look and make sure there's nothing else being recorded on my deed, on my chain, on the chain. But you can still go and do a transfer of death instrument, all those good things. But the deed doesn't become inactive after a certain period of time.
One caveat regarding a property from 1971, if there hasn't been a lot of documents recorded over the years on the property, our online database only goes back to 1985. That doesn't mean that we don't have your records, they're just not online yet. We are in the process of digitizing all of our records, going all the way back to Chicago Fire, with the hopes of one day all of that will be online. But if you don't see your document online and it's an older document from before 1985, contact our office. We'll be able to put you in contact with the staff that will look up your property, find the actual deed from 1971, and do a search going forward. They'll be able to tell you what the status is of your property.
Might need a little clarification on this question. Is it true that if you or your spouse go into a nursing home, the state takes all of his income, his pension, and social security to take care of them?
First of all, we would need additional information, but I believe the short answer is yes. But when you say all, I think they use certain formulas, and it's based upon your income level and things like that. So we need to be very specific with a question like that. So, and then when you say the state, it would depend on what type of nursing home you're in, what type of facility you're in, things like that. So, that's one of those ones that I would tell you to go and talk to an attorney about that. That's just way too specific, and it can be a lot of answers to that.
Here's something that's similarly related. Senior rehab program, please explain. Why do they want proof of ownership? Whose question was this?
I'm not familiar with the senior rehab program. What is that?
And when it was, they interviewed you over the telephone. They wanted to know your memory. They wanted to know how valuable you were. Okay, then answering questions. it made the program sound very, very simple. These people would come to your home, they would look around and see whatever you needed as a senior to upgrade for your station. But as I was talking to a friend of mine, telling her I was having an appointment that day for this person to come over and look, when she started telling me the answers to the questions that I didn't ask, it was something totally different. What it is it's a loan that they come in and survey your house, give you whatever you need. It could be the lighting on the outside, it could be the rails on your inside of your house, the safety rails for your bathroom and all of that. But she said, but you have to live in the building. You have to own the property, first of all, it's by code. Then you have to live in that building for 5 years at least until this loan. Now all of a sudden it's a loan that you gotta pay off. If you don't be in the house for 5 years, then you're liable for this loan.
So the first thing when you started talking, the first thing that came to my mind was scam. But and I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it is. But I would really ask you to be cautious. Anybody be cautious about any of these things. And I would definitely look into this because first of all, I don't recommend anyone answer any questions over the phone. That's step one. Don't answer any questions over the phone. If you can't make an appointment to go to an office, a building with some, and with the age of technology, do some research on these companies first, because when you describe this to me, I get very nervous, seriously, because that does not sound right.
The man was supposed to come to my home like one day last week. After I talked to my friend, he's telling me what it was. I was like, well, hold on, first of all, I'm not signing anything over to you or showing proof of my ownership of my property. Now you have like a lien on my property. I didn't sign up for any loan. I can get a handyman to get the work done.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, this is probably less to do with legal than just street smart. I mean, to me, first of all, you don't let a stranger in your house no matter what. And right, yeah, you answer questions and they're gonna come over your house. No, don't do that. No, yeah, yeah.
So this question says, if you own a home in joint tenancy, do you still have to have a beneficiary?
Well, yeah, because I mean, eventually, everybody's gonna die. I mean, I'm sorry, everybody's gonna pass away. No, I'm gonna be politically correct. We're gonna pass away some point. Yeah.
Okay, this question says, I'm the power of attorney for my grandmother. My family wants me to put the property in my name, but I'm 53 years old and she's now on senior freeze for her property taxes. So my question is, should I put property in another family member's name who is 65 years or older?
You all ask for legal advice how to scam the system. You can't do that. Well, I will say this though. If you're the POA, I generally advise not to put a house in your name because it's the appearance of impropriety. It just looks bad that you have the power of attorney and now you're going to take somebody's property and then you're going to put it in your own name. That just looks bad. Whether it's what they wanted or not, it just doesn't look right. But I can't give you legal advice how to get around, skirt the system. I can, but it's like people got video cameras. I got a microphone, so just talk to me later. Talk to me later. Good talk.
Hey, you guys are funny. Can you add multiple alert preferences for a property's PIN?
So yes, you can. So you just go into the system, sign up for your phone number, and then go back in again, sign up with your email. If you have multiple emails, you can do that as well. And yeah. No, you can do it on a form. If you want to do it online, you can do it online. If you want it, you can have control over it if you want. You can go home today, go on your computer, type it all in, boom, you're done. Yeah, you can do that too. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. Put it all in. Yeah, yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
If your younger child owns property, should they have a trust?
All right, whose question is that? Come on, don't be bashful. I mean, first of all, how old is the younger child? Is it right? I need clarification. Come on, own it. It's not a bad question. It's a good question. Oh, okay. I have a younger child, 18-year-old child, and I would never put anything in his name. Not at all. He's a child. You said younger child, but then, but it's, as we all know, age is relative. I mean, my mother calls 50-year-old baby. So, so it's all relative. So I'm not really sure what that, if that's your only child, if it's your only child, and I believe if they're over the age of 18, if they're over 21, I used to say 18, but now that I have an 18-year-old child, I'm gonna say 21. If they're 21, I would say you do a transfer of death instrument. Because at the end of the day, what you want to do is you want to avoid probate court. The house comes to them by intestacy laws in the state of Illinois, but we don't want to go to probate court. We don't want, that boy not going to have any money. So we can avoid all that. Do a transfer of death instrument, put him on there, stay healthy till he gets a little sense, and then, we good.
That was the very last question. Please give our attorneys a round of applause. They did an awesome job. Awesome job. So, Melissa or legal aid, do you have something you wish to add?
So for legal aid Chicago, for everyone in the city and county over the age of 60, you can complete the transfer on that for you free. So you also do powers of attorney and original to one do. So come on back. I've got flyers for all those services. And if you have any questions, you have.
Chandler?
No. Chicago, but for the 60 or older, or who have a permanent disability. If you're under the age of 60, that identifies as disability. One service that we provide that other legal aid organizations don't provide is we do last will and testament as well. We do CODIs, last will and testament, our attorney document, all of that. We can draft CODIs for you. Free of charge.
Is this your slide?
Yep.
I have one question there. It says, free legal services to low-income seniors. What's low income?
So it does vary. So it'll be based on household total, and income of all the households. For our home ownership services, we're a little bit more flexible. So while you might not qualify for certain public benefits, you might qualify for our services. We understand homeowners likely have a little bit higher income, so we can be a little bit flexible for those seeking code. For those 60 and older, we have no income limit for assets. If you're under 60, you can still have those same kind of low income limits, but still come talk to me.
And guys, it would behoove everyone here to try to talk to them first before you talk to a private attorney. I'm just being honest. Talk to them first, because I'm going to charge you. I'm just being honest. I got kids to feed. I'm going to charge you. So please see them first. And if they can't, and they typically can help you with the things that we're talking about here. Why would you get it for free?
Okay, so you got a lot of information here tonight. So what do you think about it? So I thank our community partner for being here with us, because he made me pull teeth to try to get him here. But I got him here, and we appreciate him.
I'm a West Sider, so I always say I want the West Side. They always want me to go all the way out south. I ain't gonna. I'm like, but I'm sitting at home.
Yeah. And I want to thank Kang Trin for our property fraud unit and Jim Gleffy. These people sacrificed their time to come out here and share this free information with you. So when I talked to you earlier, I said people perish for what? So now that you have all of this information, do not use it, okay? Because it's free for you. And we give these events at least 3 times a week, 2 to 3 times a week, all over the county. Now, I have one last question that says, what is the website for the presentation? It's Cook County Clerk, il.com. Go to media and video. Okay, or you can look it up on Facebook or Instagram. All you do is look for the Cook County Clerk's Property After Death presentation for this date and location, and you'll be able to view it again. But give us a couple of days because it probably won't be up for another couple of days, right? Our next location is Thursday. It's on the south side. It's 8422 South Damon. Okay? That's the 18th Ward. It's in a church. The church, what's the church name? Greater Walters AME Church. And it starts at 4 o'clock. It goes from 4 to 6. The flyers are on our table, so please grab one on your way out if you want more information about our next event. Also, the veterans. Any veterans that want a discount card, please meet Brian after we dismiss the presentation, and he'll take your application, take your picture for your discount card so it can be mailed to you. Please, please, please take advantage of all the information that we have on our table. We have a brochure that tells about all the services that are offered by the Cook County Clerk's office. So take it, refer to it. If you got any questions, give me a call. You can get my card off the table. Also, for elections, we need judges and polling place technicians for suburban elections. We're paying $250 for the day for the judges and $385 for the polling place technicians. You get training, and that's a lot of money for one day's work. You do it online. You can do the training online. We're also hiring college students, but there's some requirements that the college students can have to meet. But your child needs to work.
How old do they have to be? I'm forgetting the job.
I think they have to be 18. They have to be 18. And we have a brochure on our table that tells you about all of the requirements for that. So I want to thank Kathleen Johnson and her staff and organization for having us out. We have been with her almost since we started in 2012. And I think this is the 4th time we've been with you. So I appreciate her. We appreciate her. The clerk appreciates you working with me to put these forums on in the community. And if you have an organization that wants to hold one of these events in your community or at your church, we have some requirements, but they're not hard to meet. One is that you partner with your local elected official in that area. And 2, you have to at least get us 50 people in the room. Kathleen worked her tail off getting all of you here, and we appreciate her. And when we go to these events, we don't get fed anywhere else but here. And she fed us royally. So give her a round of applause and a thank you. So when you fill out your property fraud alert form, you don't have to have your PIN number. You sign it at the bottom, date it, and show us a piece of valid ID so that we can make sure you're who you say you are. So thank you so much. Kathleen, you want to have something to say?
I just want to thank Robin. She makes this really easy, and I appreciate her coming out to the community, educating us. And of course, we want to thank our clerk, Karen Yarbrough. Thank you so very much. And all who attended, Attorney Hinton, Kane, Lefty, the staff, Ms. Johnson, Lindsay, Brian, Melissa, Chandler, and Marlo. I got it.
So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.